Right now, All Might is in the middle of his final fight. The dark prophecy of his horrifying death against an unknown villain is finally here. The identity of the villain isn't a mystery anymore. It's All Might versus All for One for the very last time. All Might may have beaten the Demon Lord before, but not like this. All for One is young again. He used an artificial copy of Ares' quirk to do it. Because he's young and powerful again, if All for One is able to interrupt Deku's fight against Shigaraki, it'll be game over. Since being young again, All for One has beaten Endeavor, Hawks, Mount Lady, Kirishima, Jiro, Tokoyami, Shinso, Kinoko, Inasa, Shishikura, Kami, and even Gigantomachia, all at the same time. Nobody was left to stop him. Nobody except the symbol of peace himself, All Might. Even without a quirk, All Might has managed to put up one hell of a fight here. And to do that, he has rewritten the definition of power in this world. The moment Labrava saw what he was doing, she decided to show it to the world like she was a Bleach character activating her Bankai. And with this power in his hands, All Might defeated two bloodthirsty villains through sheer pressure alone, like he had Conqueror's Haki from One Piece. Armored All Might is here. If you've been with the channel for a while, then you might know that I've been waiting for something like this for ages. Since the beginning, it didn't really make sense to me that someone like Deku couldn't become a hero just because he didn't have a quirk. And that's because of the giant robots they had him up against during the UA entrance exams. And later on in the story, the only real defenders against Shigaraki breaking All for One out of jail were Terminator robots. I refuse to believe that in a world where a high school can have access to kaiju-sized robots, a battlesuit of some sort would be impossible. And thankfully, All Might has risen to the occasion. This final fight of his against All for One is being live streamed all over the world. This battle of theirs is bound to change the course of history in more ways than one. There's no doubt that the fate of the world is depending on All Might's performance here, just like it's depending on Deku's. Thankfully, he hasn't disappointed in the slightest. Not only is it hype, but it is also really inspiring. Not even All Might's best friend Tsukauchi thought he'd be up to the task. The detective was blown away by the fact that All Might was actually putting in work against history's most dangerous villain. And after the people see all the things even a quirkless man can do with this sort of technology, nothing will ever be the same again. This battlesuit is the pinnacle of anti-quirk weaponry. It was created by Melissa Shield, the daughter of All Might's former sidekick, and a main character of the first My Hero Academia movie. Now, Melissa is an absolute prodigy. Her dad is one of the world's greatest scientific minds, but at this point, she may have already surpassed him. In the movie, she gave Deku the full gauntlet, a support item that let him use 3 full power smashes without hurting himself. That's even better than what Black Whip was able to do inside of Deku's body. It was also able to stabilize his body and allow for even greater power output. Do you have any idea how insane that is? Melissa created a support item that could withstand the overwhelming power of One for All without really knowing about One for All. Usually when support items are created, measurements and other sorts of user information are considered. This thing worked like a charm and fit perfectly from the moment Deku put it on. The mid-gauntlet was a prototype based on them, and they worked pretty well too. But even the inferior version was too much for Mei Hatsume to repair with the resources available to her. Melissa also helped construct Endeavor's most recent hero costume, but she clearly saved her latest and greatest work for her uncle All Might. The abilities of All Might's battlesuit are based on the various quirks of Class 1A. After all, Melissa did see them demonstrate their powers. Hercules Red gives him access to a replica of Kirishima's hardening quirk. This is enough for him to survive a building-destroying attack from All for One. That is ridiculous. Our boy Kirishima only just managed to tank a hit from All for One a few minutes ago. Back during the first movie, he didn't even have access to Unbreakable. Yet this mechanical copy is already on a level like this. Now, that one attack left the armor's integrity at 33%, meaning that All Might would not be able to survive another one like it. That might not sound very good, but you have to remember that All Might emerged from it without a single scratch on him. Not even Kirishima can do that. All Might has access to Black Whip in the form of binding cables. Black Whip is of course the first additional quirk Deku received from One for All. Mind you, Melissa has never seen Deku use Black Whip in person. And I now realize how awkward the name of that quirk is in a sentence with the names of other characters. This version of it isn't nearly as versatile or powerful, but that's fine because the suit is capable of mechanical quirk fusion too. All Might combined his Black Whip cables with Kaminari's electricity quirk. This sort of move would be able to fry the overwhelming majority of characters. In this case, it was enough to mess with All For One's regeneration. All Might can reel himself or others in by combining Black Whip with Sero's tape quirk, which is really clever. In the past, All Might suggested that Deku train with Sero since there was bound to be some overlap between using Black Whip and using tape. Black Whip and tape work well together. Okay, Horikoshi, I finally get the joke. All Might can grant himself the extra strength of Sato's Sugar Rush quirk with none of the drawbacks. Sato actively needs sugar for his quirk to function properly, while All Might does not. Sato's increased strength is limited to 3 minutes for every 10 grams of sugar he consumes. All Might doesn't have a time limit. Too much sugar makes Sato less intelligent, tired, and slow. All Might, meanwhile, is just fine. This suddenly feels like a Men's Health commercial. All Might has Tokoyami's Dark Shadow quirk in the form of a utility cape that automatically protects him. It may not be as offensively capable as the real thing, but not having to worry about conditions being too bright or dim is great. Then there's Mina's Acid quirk. Not only did Melissa make All Might a battlesuit, but it also came with a support car. One that is definitely better than the one her dad made. This thing launched a projectile that passed along a syringe of synthetic acid that attacked All For One from the inside out. That's pretty brutal. Mina's acid is usually only used on the outside of a person's body. By combining duplicates of Uraraka and Ida's quirks, All Might can propel himself through the air at breakneck speeds, fast enough for him to go from the ground to punching All For One in the face in the blink of an eye. With a combination of Shoji's Dupli Arms quirk and Sue's suction pads, All Might can move around like Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man. He has a fire and ice blaster named after Shoto. And if this thing has a temperature issue of any kind, I'm sure the suit will let All Might know immediately. He even has a tail courtesy of Ojiro's quirk. I'm pretty sure I've told you guys not to underestimate Ojiro's quirk. All Might's version is strong enough to bind All For One. Although it seems to be skinnier, it is longer. And unlike Ojiro, it's not really part of All Might's body, so it taking damage doesn't hurt him at all. He has mechanical birds that follow his voice commands, like Koda's Anti-Voice quirk. It looks like he only has access to 2 of them, but they're way more durable and a lot faster than Koda's pigeons. It's a quality over quantity sort of thing. He has Oyama's naval laser power, but his is several times better. He can fire it remotely while getting an enemy in position. And it can be supercharged by an external power source to make it much stronger. The suit has the ability to produce pressurizing sound waves inspired by Jiro's quirk. It can morph itself to be like Momo's creation quirk. This let All Might create binding spears like Minetta's quirk that were strong enough to restrict All For One and durable enough to withstand laser fire. All Might even has his own shoot-style smash attack with this thing. We haven't seen it just yet, but you already know that there has to be a Bakugo ability. But since Bakugo's been dead for a while now, a self-destruct sequence based on his quirk might be a little insensitive. The symbol of peace has been very clever in this fight against All For One, which is definitely impressive since All For One has super intelligence. But it's not like he's being cowardly in this fight at all. All For One was surprised to see that All Might was still using his old fighting style where he'd boldly attack without dodging. The villain believed that All Might was only able to do that thanks to One For All. But it didn't take long for him to be proven wrong. Either way, this battle suit is way too impressive. Besides that building-destroying attack, it also withstood a point-blank quirk combination of Springify, Ron Boost, Air Cannon, Rivet Stab, Dark Ball, and Impure Beam. Then it held firm against a close-range repulsive blast from All For One, enough for All Might to inject the Demon Lord with acid. All Might was sent crashing through the whole city in a single hit, and still managed to get back up thanks to its movement assistance. He survived an omnidirectional Rivet Stab. All For One even slammed down on the hero's midsection, and All Might was still fine. Aside from a handful of the most overpowered quirks in the world, I'd take this battlesuit over most of the powers we have seen in the series. All Might is an underweight 55-year-old man with missing organs that bleeds from his mouth regularly. All he really brought to this fight was a strong spirit and heroic experience. If a young Deku saw this display, he would have known forever that anyone can be a hero, and a damn good one at that. Technology has finally caught up to quirks here. And if the heroes manage to win this war, Melissa's shield might just become the queen of support items. Plenty of the mechanical quirks we've discussed are either on par with or even exceed the capabilities of the original. The ability to have multiple quirks and even combine their powers is a feature that's usually reserved for only the most powerful characters in history. Deku is one of them, but it took him ages to fully master all his quirks. All Might has had his car Hercules since the end of the first war, so we can assume that he probably got the suit around the same time he got the car and mid-gauntlets for Deku. Sure, he's been guiding Class 1A for a while, but to so perfectly make use of their abilities in such a short span of time is truly impressive. Even a budget version of the suit with less or more focused abilities would be a game changer. But what if someone evil was able to get their hands on this technology? Now that Pandora's box has been opened, I could totally see this sort of thing being the focus of a future My Hero movie. But right now, the danger of All Might losing his life here still remains. Horikoshi has been on a killing spree when it comes to fan favorite characters lately. Bakugo, Dabi, Toga, All Might could be next. But besides Deku proving that Sir Night-Eye's predictions could be wrong, All Might still has a fight against Stain to handle. Stain has actually shown up with a hovercraft of his own to help out. If a fight between them still happens, we're gonna need to make an All Might jersey just to hang it up in the rafters, because that would be some insane overtime. It has been a legendary performance so far, and when the fans asked for more hype, All Might definitely delivered. As always, I am Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.